Trauma-informed care for me is seeing the human behind the behaviour. It's all about that human-to-human connection. It's all about where is that human at, what do they need, and how do I work with them, not do it to them, to make sure that they can, move forward and feel that self-efficacy, that empowerment, that whole, holistic sort of feeling that a human being should have, where, rather than feeling that they've got the pain inside them, the tortured memories, they can actually, get rid of that and grow.
At the moment, the way the system has worked for such a long time, it's fractured and it's disjointed and it's not joined up, and it hasn't been for a long time. So by, I suppose, coming in with this different mindset, this different viewpoint, that we can work this way in a different way, which is actually putting the people first and not the numbers, then that really helps us to think differently about how we can change the services as a whole.
So trauma-informed to me means looking at things from that person's lens. So from a staff perspective, and knowing that if a staff member feels uncomfortable with doing a certain thing, why do they feel uncomfortable, looking at it deeper, why, and what you've got to understand is we're working with clients who've gone through so much, sexual abuse, mental health, death, and knowing that when staff are working with these clients, what that then entails for them.
Being trauma-informed really for me is taking into consideration that person, just that person, not people like that person. It's all about their story, and because everyone's story is different, it's about really taking into consideration things that they've gone through that have actually affected them and got them into sort of trouble in their lives, that have given them issues in their lives that they're now having problems with. So it's really just, it's all person-centred, which I think all of these sort of services should be anyway.
I work with them so that they don't need to re-traumatise themselves with repeating the story over and over again.
So my role is the trauma-informed project lead for Changing Futures in South Tees. So South Tees comprises of Middlesbrough and Redcar and Cleveland, two very deprived areas with lots of adversity within them. So when they won the funding, one of the roles to be able to bring trauma-informed care into practice within the services was my role, trauma-informed lead. I saw the role as an opportunity for what I'd always wanted to do. I worked within my local prison home house, and I worked in the drug and alcohol team, but always came from a point of view as to what had happened to somebody. Why were they displaying the behaviours they were displaying? Why were they using drugs and alcohol? Why were they in the criminal justice system? And that's what I always used to look into when I was working with people. But I only had 60 people at the most on my caseload. So when I was leaving Home House Prison, the men that I was working with actually asked me why I was leaving. And I said to them, and I still stand by this today, is that I could only help them, 60 men in that prison. I was a very small voice, but the way I was working with them I knew worked. I knew that I created a safe space where I got sort of ultimate engagement, lots of fantastic work. I gave them tools to help them regulate themselves, to help them to be able to be in a good place and grow and move forward. So I still stand by the point that I left there to bring out what I knew to help more people. And this for me, working in an area like South Tees with 2 drug and alcohol services, housing, social care, domestic abuse, mental health, this was just a project that would mean my voice would be heard. It's actually turned out where even the police, approved premises probation, they're all getting involved, they're all interested in it, because trauma-informed care is a buzzword, but actually what I'm trying to bring to South Tees is the meaning behind that, and not just you know, the ticky box, let's do the training. It's all about then how do we put that into practice? How do we work with people in a very, very different way to be able to help them grow and move forward, rather than keeping them in systems where they're just stuck and they go round and round because the root cause is never, ever, ever dealt with.
Morning, Gina, I'll sign in, shall I?
Oh, lovely, thank you.
How are you today?
I'm fine, thank you. Do you want a brew?
Good. Yes, please, I'll have a cup of...
Any sugar?
No, thank you.
No sugar, no problem. I'll go make that now then.
Yes, I'm here at Eramis, Changing Lives this morning, and Eramis House is, it has 32 flats supporting young people from 16 to 25. I come here as regularly as I can within the project that I'm working on with Changing Futures to provide group work or one-to-ones with some of the young people here, normally looking at their trauma but not revisiting it in such. It's making them feel safe where they do sometimes disclose what they've gone through, and it's then helping them grow from that. I love coming to Eramis. It's one of my favourite places to come, particularly because it just embraces everything that is trauma informed. The staff have the utmost of kindness and compassion with the young people that they work with, and you can see that in every way, shape and form. They make the young people feel safe. They make them feel that sort of trust where they can disclose things that they might need to disclose and they might need to, you know, help and support with.
So my name is Amanda Chalmers. I come from East of Africa, Eritrea. They call it Eritrea. So I am here in the Eramis House accommodation. I've been here for quite a couple of years. It's not just support of house, but even with what I do with my life situation. I go in college, so they help a lot. They are looking after me, about my health, about everything. Like they just do everything except the cooking. I cook by myself. And then even with the study, they help me. And then even for under of the support them, I have got my license. So yeah, they help them to move forward to myself and to understand the better system in UK.
My name's Alex. I am 27 and I've been here a year now. Well, the support of me being independent, looking after my finances. They're currently helping me with my my PIP, because my PIP got stopped. So they're currently helping me try and get that back.
My name's Demi Lee Iverson. Everybody just calls me Lee. I'm 24. I've been here for about 3-4 months now, maybe a bit less. The staff were very welcoming when I first moved in, and it was a different experience to other places I've lived moving in here. Well, it's about the presentation, so it's very easy on the eye compared to other places I've lived. It's well looked after, maintained, there's regular maintenance here if you have issues with your flat. You get support workers here for yourself as well as other staff that are on that you can just talk to. If you don't feel like talking to them, they don't take it personally, you can just leave, you know what I mean? They even do this thing where if you've been out for 2 nights, they call the police to do welfare checks, which at first I was pretty defensive about. But then when I thought about it, that would probably help with most people in the safety aspect. I think they've got a lot of experience, most of them, to be fair. And because quite often my head twists things, and there's been a few times where I've thought, oh, they're having a go at me, they don't understand, and then less than 5 minutes later, I've been proved wrong. And turns out that they are pretty understanding, and like the mood or argument, whichever way you want to call it, is changed in that aspect, and like I end up getting emotional because I'm like, oh, I thought you were having a go at me and it turns out they were being nice, which I'm not used to stuff like that, to be fair. I'm used to the opposite. So like it is hard to get your head round, because I don't know, when you've been through a lot of bad shit in life, you find it easier to cope with the bad than the good. So when good things happen, you're like, oh well, how do I deal with this situation? It's hard to just like take it as it is. You're always very defensive when bad shit happens, you know what I mean?
Hello, my name's Gina. I'm the project lead here at Aramis House. I look after 32 young people within the building, and then we also have 12 which are living in dispersed properties outside in Middlesbrough. They've moved on. What they've done is they've gone through the processes within the building and have been deemed to sort of live independent. But what we do is we give them a trial run in our dispersed properties before we move them out into the community to make sure that they feel comfortable. The only criteria is that you're 16 to 25 and that you're homeless. This particular project is commissioned by Middlesbrough Council. And when I actually came up to it, as it had just started, it started in the April of 21, that I actually joined in the May. We've managed to get the place full, so we now have 32 residents. They all have their own independent flats, so that means that they have their own cooking, cleaning, washing facilities, and their own bedrooms. And it's an independent flat in the sense that these flats are as if it was their own home, and we ask them to treat it like that, so that they are respectful of the property, but respectful of belongings as well, of their own. So we've had to teach them skills from using a washing machine to emptying a bin. You know, people thought the bins just emptied themselves. We've had to teach them some really basic stuff, but we've also learnt from them as well. Just because their circumstances are not good, they still want the same things as everybody else wants, which is security, which is love, which is friendship. And that is what we have tried to cultivate within Aramis, in that we've created a social hub area at the bequest of the kids. So we've actually opened a hub area now. It's a communal area where we've put tea and toast on in the morning. There's facilities like pool table, there's a quiet area, there's a TV. We've put all these things based on what they have actually told us. These young people have come to us and said, look, this is what we want. We want to be able to socialise. So we've created a social hub area. They have their own voice within Aramis as well. We call it community talk time. And we do that usually through food events, like we do a barbecue in the summer outside. They've created their own area outside, so we do barbecues outside. We do Mexican nights, we do pizza nights, movie nights. We put all kinds of activities on up there. We ask them what they want us to do, and then we organise it with them, and then they do it with us. So it's not a case of we do it, they turn up. They have to participate within it because it's theirs, not ours. So we put all kinds of activities on that way, and through those activities we get a lot of social interaction, and that's when we get from them how they're feeling, what's going on, what's happening in life, you know, because they forget that if it was more formalised, we wouldn't get the information that we get from the young people to help them, because once we start to know what it is that's troubling them, we can start to help to solve the problem. These young people, all they're craving for, all they want is our attention, our love. So we try to nurture that in them and bring out that caring side for them to then be able to replicate that themselves in their own life. You know, we have a saying in here, becoming, belonging, and that's the journey which the young people go on. They come in and they be themselves. They then become part of something, and then they're able to go out there and belong to society and belong to what they want to do. This all started when I first came up here from Wales, when we first opened the project. I decided, I had an old dog at home, a boxer, and she just loves people, particularly children. And I'd I'd read about zootherapy and I'd watched a film about zootherapy and thought, that's what the children need, that's what the young people need, because they want to look after somebody and something, but they're not capable at this present time of having their own pet to be able to focus their energies on. So I brought my old dog Rosie in, and the young people in here just fell in love with her. They absolutely adored her. And unfortunately she passed away last year. And the young people are then saying to me, are you going to get another dog? Are you going to get another dog? So we've bought Ozzy. He's a 6-month-old boxer, and he comes into work with me every day, and he just loves the young people, and the young people seem to love him. And we find that he gives them therapy in the sense that we have one young person that's actually suffering badly with depression, and he comes down every morning and he comes to get his Ozzy dose. And Ozzy, he just lets Ozzy run all over him wildly, and he says, now I feel like I've got a positive start to my day. And then he goes out and he does his day. So that's just, I know it's not very much to some people, but that's an awful lot to me, because that young person goes out of here with a smile on his face and he can face the world, and that is everything. It gets me quite emotional, as you can see, about it, because if I can just do that with a dog, imagine what we can do with other things as well. So I'm hoping he's just the start of other things. So he's our therapy dog.
You know, systems are resistant to change because it makes people feel unsafe to change. So I think we've got to be gentle, and I always talk about nudge, that if we can nudge a system into the direction we'd like it to go into, we only need to nudge 1% today and then 1% tomorrow, and it only takes 3 months to fully change. Probably more realistically, if we nudge 1% this month and 1% next month, then it only takes a few years to nudge a system. When we talk about revolution, people get scared. When we want to change things dramatically and quickly, people get scared, and that isn't trauma-informed either. So I think we've got to be mindful of the way we do things as well. But yeah, getting as many systems and as many people as possible, at least looking at how they can improve things for everybody, because it's not them, it's all of us.
So the reason I do all this is to keep myself sober. I celebrate on the 13th of August a year sober, and I've never done that in my entire life. People need to understand that, yes, we're all addicts, and I've always been addicts, but there's reason for addicts. I know my reasons. My reason was childhood trauma, the suicide, the drink, domestic violence, and all of these things, we use it to cover up, to blot out the past. And once you start opening up and talking about your problems, engaging in these services and realising that there is something out there for you. If somebody just said to me, you will be a year sober next week, get out of here. You see that, this member of staff has been to prison. This member of staff was a heroin addict or a crack addict or an alcoholic or whatever. They're showing you this can be done. And it just makes you want to do it. And I just think that's the beauty of it, because the stigma over addicts it needs changing. It's not right. We're humans at the end of the day, and the staff are invaluable. Like, it's literally unique to have somebody that you can go, oh God, I feel like this, and they go, well, yeah, actually, I quite get that. Really feel like I have a drink, because I used to get like that. It's amazing, and they do share their experiences as well, whether it's award ceremonies or different groups. So it's just, I think the open book of everything that's gone on, I just think it really helps, because I just never even thought that I'd be able to sit in a room and talk about my addiction, where I'm not ashamed. Yeah.
What we're trying to create is the UK's first recovery city. So that involves getting all of the different elements under this umbrella of BRIM, Building Recovery in Middlesbrough, which means working with all of the institutions, so creating clear links and pathways and a good working relationship with the institutions, so the likes of the police, probation service, the NHS, the colleges, the university, all the wider services, and then kind of informing them that this is the goal, this is what we're aiming towards, and create this kind of real close-knit partnership working.
Just a conscious effort all the time, because even though the support worker, you hear a lot of people's stories and the things that come from, I've realised we probably only know the tiniest top layer of it. There's so much more underneath, and it's finding how to work with each person and get them to trust you, to try and get what you need out of them, and them get what they need out of you.
You know, what has happened to you for you to do this? And that is the key to all trauma-informed work for me, is what happened to you to make you hurt yourself like you're hurting yourself now.
I've always wanted to work within organisations that tend to make a difference to people's lives. So that's generally on charity organisations, charitable, or the voluntary sector. From doing the training and learning a lot more about trauma-informed, it's changed my thinking personally and the way I look at other people. I always relate to people from a trauma-informed approach now. I used to say I'd put myself in your shoes, but I didn't fully do that. I feel I do that now in trauma-informed. I feel I've got more compassion for people. It's a more open way of thinking, so you kind of removing a lot of barriers there straight away by being trauma-informed.
I think for a client to know that you're there for them and you're there to support them from the beginning right through till the end. So for them to know that you understand their challenges, you understand what life looks like for them, you understand that things aren't going to just change overnight. It's a step-by-step process, but for them to know that you're with them on that journey. I think from a staff perspective, for me, is for your staff to know that they're supported in what they're working with, knowing that, you know, if they're giving a lot to you as a service, we need to be giving them something back. Looking at staff burnout, looking at just protecting staff on a whole, I think.
I've always liked to consider myself a good listener. That's obviously vital to the role that I do. And then upon doing my training, I learned that I wasn't. So having done my training, I did some training with Samaritans, which helped me learn the active listening skills. And it's just gone from there, snowballed from there.
If you can change people's mindset and shift from a less corporate, structured, systemic approach, which is very rigorous and very stuck in its ways, it needs to be embedded at every single level of an organisation.
I think the current challenges within services are high caseloads. We have a lot of vulnerable clients in the Middlesbrough area. I think staff burnout is massive. I think we hold this thing where we're a 9 to 5 service, but actually looking at the problems that we're dealing with, they're not just a 9 to 5 problem. It's a problem that's 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and staff are constantly trying to catch up with their workloads.
You're working with again the kind of clients and the services that they use, other agencies, etc., that are not as trauma informed as they could be.
It's just little things like having trauma informed waiting rooms and stuff like that, instead of it looking like a clinical office.
And they will just become hyper vigilant immediately as soon as they come into reception.
So this is Live Well East. This is one of Recovery Solutions in Middlesbrough. It's one of their new hubs. Very trauma informed in the way that they have decided to put hubs in communities where people can easily get to them, where in the past they've been more satellite out in centre of Middlesbrough. I have been looking at the reception area and the environment and it is going to be adapted. We are going to do some more work around it to make sure that when people come in here, they do feel that they are safe. They don't feel they need to be hyper-vigilant. Then one of the things that we did with Changing Futures and one of the leads at Recovery Solutions was some of these type of posters, which if anyone is feeling where they're not quite regulated and they're feeling quite hyper-vigilant, it might help them just calm down a little bit and, you know, be in the space to do some really good work when they're going with workers, which is what it's all about.
So in this project, I've been asked to come in and do some training around approaches towards trauma-informed care. And this is a broad range of things, from generally how to communicate with people in an effective way, understanding when people have got a hidden or an obvious trauma, and then some interventions for some staff around what to do to help people when they have got something that's living inside of them that's traumatic. So there's a range of approaches that I train, including neurolinguistic programming and integral eye movement therapy and other non-clinical approaches that people can use to help people feel better really quickly. The systems that aren't trauma-informed, so the systems that don't really work for both the people working in the system and also the clients and the community that it serves. So a lot of it's around approach and attitude for me. It's around getting people to be more aware that we just don't know what's going on inside of anybody, whether they have a trauma or not. And it's how do we have an approach that's recognising that's more kind, that's more aware of the fact that people aren't robots and do need to be handled with a bit of care sometimes. A passion of mine is to get services, or get every approach in a way that works for people really quickly without re-traumatising. So in one of the models I show, there's a model called the Mercedes model, which is about the fact we've all got internal thoughts, internal feelings and external behaviour all happening at once. When we meet somebody else, all we've got to go on is their external behaviour, what they say, what they do, how they say it and how they do it. We have got no idea what's going on inside of somebody's mind, what they're thinking and feeling. It's a cultural shift. So a lot of the services that exist in every area, a lot of the statutory services, even some of the voluntary and charitable services, are working from a template that was written many, many, many years ago, and it hasn't really got the ability to upgrade very quickly. So in a way, we're pushing against a massive system.
And they're there in their services every day, changing the bigger thing, which is the culture. It's a massive culture change, and I can't be in all of these places all of the time. So my champions really are there every day, building that culture, doing some amazing work, and they're the longevity of it for me. Because my idea behind it was, what happens when I finish this project? What happens to it then? I didn't want to do all this amazing work and start really changing systems and people's thought processes about working with people, for me to not be here and it all goes back to how it was. So the champions of the longevity, they're the ones who are going to drive it forward. And I'm hoping in the end, I should have somewhere in the region of 60 champions at least out in South Tees, driving this forward and really making a difference.
So one of the things that we do with some of our young people is like memory boxes and comforting boxes. So when they're in crisis, so in there they'll have something they love to smell, like the favourite scent, the favourite song, whether it's just a lyric or a actual CD that they can listen to, or whatever the hobbies are. So if it's drawing, knitting, whatever they like to do is in that box. So they've always got something to be safe, feel safe around, and when they're overwhelmed or too much is happening, they can go back to that. It doesn't take a lot of doing. Like a box and a few objects is what out of someone's day or someone's pocket for them feeling comfortable. And it's just a lot of things I feel like at organisational level. So we're so tied around paperwork and stats and numbers, and they don't really care about
how the actual real person is doing. All they care about is what's on the piece of paper and whether or not they're doing what they need to do.
One of the tools that I use now is I do a safety plan with clients like that, and it's just based around what can I do to make you feel safer when you come in, what can I do to make you feel more comfortable so that when you leave you don't leave feeling upset. How can I get you comfortable coming into service so that we can have a good session, that we can, that you will feel that you can speak to me, you can feel comfortable.
I've just learned acupuncture, so I'm now a qualified acupuncturist, which has also been useful. I've had a few clients over the past couple of weeks, and they've not had to give the story or anything, we just use the treatment as it is, and the feedback I've had from that has been really, really good and inspiring.
I think really it should be in all services that are helping people who, are in trouble really, and that means housing services, police, social work, anywhere where you're dealing with people who are in pain, who are lashing out or who are in trouble mentally, I think it should really be the approach. Because let's face it, the approach at the moment, it's not helping people. People are still in the same place that they've been 10, 20, 30 years ago. They're not getting out of that hole. They're still there.
At every point where people come into contact with the service, that essentially they're paying for from their own taxes, so you need to have people who understand other people's, not necessarily what the trauma was or what they've gone through, you don't need to ask that, but just understand that people have gone through, humans go through stuff.
It's so important that staff are protected so that we can then get the best possible outcome for the clients.
I would like to see them work on a model which strips out excessive caseloads, excessive caseload management, and the allowance for more time to be spent with the individual.
And I think the hardest thing for me is that I keep coming up against the systems and the same responses about, well, that's how we do things, how do we change that? So I think it is a challenge, but for me to be in this role means that part of my role is to not just make sure people are aware of what it is, but actually how they can practice it. And part of that is doing workshops, working with managers, frontline staff, but the most important people is the service users or those lived experience people, to get their voice. What do they think the services should look like? How do they think that people should react to them? What do they want it to feel like when they walk into a reception area? So the workshops that I do will hopefully make that challenge a lot easier, because we've got lots of people in lots of different levels and areas coming together and talking about how do we make this feel more trauma informed? How do we be really brave and change systems that have been there for a lot of years and give it a go and see what happens? Because it can't be any worse. The systems are not working, people are in them and they're kept in them for years and years and years and years, going round and round and round with all that torture. What's fair about that? So I'm up for the challenge. It is a challenge because systems, people like their standard operating procedures, they like their policies and procedures, and there is lots of red tape and safeguarding and things, I'm aware of that. And I always say, I know some of it we can't change, but let's try and change what we can.